Welcome, everyone. We are back with our Succession breakdowns live, and we're talking about episode 6, titled Living Plus. Everything has to have a plus on it. Disney Plus, Apple Plus, pluses all day. But speaking of a plus, I got a plus one with me tonight. On my left, on my right, I can't get the skis right. And that you like that segue? I got my man, 9 Nerd Yard. We linked up with Atlanta, one of the greatest shows of all time. But this is the first time we've ever talked about Succession, so I'm so excited to have him on tonight. We introduced him on the live, which we are live, by the way, which I always recommend you all join us every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. But why don't you go ahead and reintroduce yourself now to the people at home that are watching us collab with Succession, man?
It's the dream team right here. We've always been, ever since Atlanta, I feel like we've been tight. We're, covering kind of the same thing. I'm trying to catch up to you, but I feel like we got like a little team of rivals going, especially with Struggle Reviews. Congratulations on hitting 50K. But yeah, you can catch me on 9 Nerd Yards, covering a lot of the same stuff. Currently going over Dave, still going over Atlanta and putting together some pretty cool videos, especially as I'm closing it out. If you guys are interested in Atlanta, I may be constructing like a big community project, so stay tuned for that.
Living forever. Living Plus, this kind of, as Manson calls it, a cruise, just chaos of this a Tesla meets older elderly people living in this building. Rome is just losing control. You're fired. Man. Jiv and Tom, I don't know what's going on there, but I do know one thing, Nine. So just let you know, my friend, my number one character from day one has been a Kenny Ken. And my boy Kid 9 and everyone watching live and watching this, he came through tonight, man. He came through like a bull in a china shop, man. He got the Top Gun Maverick, jacket on. He was flying to the moon tonight. So
I'm excited to Pusha T before his speech.
He was on one tonight, man, and I'm excited to talk about him tonight. But I guess just kind of going scene for scene and kind of highlighting things. One of the things that I definitely wanted to celebrate, and it kind of caught me by surprise in the best way possible, and that was the return of Logan. Yeah. How you been, Logan? It's been a couple weeks. Missed you, man. I'm thinking, is he back? Gosh. Is this Palpatine back from the dead?
No, somehow Logan returned.
He has the Force. Let me know, 9, and everyone watching live, how did you feel about just kind of this opening scene as Logan is back? In a way, we see him cutting a promo scene for this new real estate project, Living Plus, but he's interrupted by the director, and of course, in old-fashioned Logan way, he lets him know how he feels. He snaps on him, and he conveniently brings up that this crew is just as terrible as those damn kids. How did you feel about that opening scene, my friend? Let me know.
The fact that he's still posthumously just getting at his kids. I have not. He is a true like everlasting presence, right? Like Logan is going to be haunting the show as a ghost. I think one of the most surprising things of the season was that they took him out of the game so early on.
Yeah,
that episode was so expected. But to see him kind of like brought back in this manner, would not like that.
And the thing, and you brought up Kendall, and the thing I love about that reaction to Ken, unlike what we'll talk about later with Rome, and even like if Shiv were to see something, this would have thrown them completely off. This would have just had them. He would have been in his head the entire episode. But what I'm loving about what Ken's doing in these last few episodes, especially now being the CEO, it's kind of water under the bridge. Co-CEO, correct. Co-CEO for sure. He's not allowing his dad to get in his head, unlike we see with Roman a little bit later in this episode. So to me, this was the Ken-centric episode of the season so far, that he's not allowing the ghost of his father to disrupt him and be the man that he wants to be, or to solidify, episode 4, whatever episode that was, of it being underlined or being circled. I think Ken just underlined himself as
Exactly.
I love it, man.
And yeah, as it is being so Ken-centric, like we gotta realize that this is the position that Ken wanted to be at his whole entire life, basically. He wanted to take over his dad's business, but to have him not be around to see that takeover, man, that's got to be driving him to do some crazy things. And whenever Ken takes a dip into that water, whenever they make a point of that, you already know he's up to something.
Yeah. If he falls flat normally when these type of big events happen, but he stepped up to the plate, kind of like Chef Curry did in Game 7 versus the Kings. Generally speaking, what do you think about Shiv? What have you liked or maybe disliked about her so far this season? But in particularly in this episode, secret meetings with Matsson on one plane to the next, and he wants her to be his inside man or inside girl, I should say. Talk
I
to me.
got a complicated relationship with Shiv.
As we all do. As we all do.
But she's a bit too gangster. She's a bit too gangster for me. But I also admire the fact that like the role that she plays is that she needs to be included more. Like the boys are messing up by not having her, at least iron out the details, because she's going to guide them a bit more correctly than whatever power trip that they're dealing with right now. As they're doing the duo thing, they definitely need to make it a trifecta and just have everybody kind of on the same page.
It's so frustrating for me now because since season 1, I think about, you mentioned that episode, that amazing finale and leading up to Shiv's and Tom's wedding, the night that they're out smoking a little doobie on the boat and Jim just hugging. And then we haven't gotten them connected so much since this season. I love when we're on the same page. Brian Pierce, starting their 100 business. But ever since episode 1, they have grown further and further apart as far as to keep lying to each other. She's meeting Matsson. He's pitching her to be the inside girl for him. He also tells her about the whole mountain situation. This is your brothers he's talking about. And I mean, we all know what happened last week. He's being honest, but the fact that she's kind of just allowing him to kind of be this, devil on her shoulder and kind of playing that side of the thing. I mean, again, it's a very, Logan Roy type of thing, is playing both sides and keeping your options open, as Tom mentioned earlier. But man, talk to me about this backstabbing and the siblings just being terrible.
But at the same time, it's like, what are you going to expect though? Because if they're leaving her out, right? And she doesn't really know what their intentions are. And by all points where she stands, Matsson's going to be the new guy, right? Yeah. He's going to be buying up the company. She doesn't know. I do appreciate how they do have like a nonverbal way of communicating, because as soon as she does get a whiff of any type of backstabbing on their part, or kind of like shadiness on their part, she just steps into the room and she goes, "What?" They say, "What?" She goes, "What?" And they, she just kind of figures it out from there. It's just a funny like sixth sense that they all have with each other. That's just how that family is. They just kind of are raised to be nonstop plotting and scheming.
Yeah.
And working any type of maneuver. They want to open up, but they really can't.
Yeah.
So they got to play these kind of like childish games and bitey.
We'll get to that, man. Yeah, their mental stability is definitely unstable. And generally speaking, Nine, your impressions on Matsson, played by the incredible Alexander Skarsgård.
I would not want to play chess against him. You know what I mean? I feel like he is just a few steps ahead. I think a little bit this episode we seen a little bit like a crack of his armor, right? But other than that, he seems to be pretty in control and pretty confident about like how he's going to maneuver around all of these kids. When he called them a tribute band last week, the way that they be acting is very much in line with like just kind of playing house or like playing Big Dad. But this guy is kind of like the screenshot. But yeah, that guy is he's pretty ruthless. I wouldn't mess around.
We're in LA, man. La La Land. Studio time. We see Rome and Ken arriving to Waystar Studios. Ken and Rome bring up their whole plan, 9, which last week we know that they wanted to kill the deal. We know that Matsson ended up raising the price to $192. It's a deal that they couldn't refuse. He went behind their backs to get the other execs to pretty much accept the deal, but they're trying to pitch Carl, Frank, and everyone at the table now that, Matsson's a little maybe
right then. It just kind of felt like they were just fishing. Just kind of fishing for some information, any type of dirt that would like make it sway their way.
Exactly.
And I'm like, and that's why I'm bringing up like, yeah, they're at this position. They don't want to let it go just so quickly. A week after, like it's really been like a week since he died, right?
So we are on episode 6. He died episode 3. No, we're talking 3 days. This is only 3 days ago.
It's
Because
only
like each episode is a day of this show. So it has been 3 days since they lost their father.
damn.
Yeah, man. So
Yeah.
it puts it even more in perspective. All these decisions, all these moves is based on grieving, man. They're not making it, to me, minus my boy Ken. To me, everyone else in this show is just, especially Roman and Shiv, are reacting negatively because of them not dealing with the fact that they lost their dad 3 years ago. Especially Roman in this episode, having Jerry being, hitting that hammer on the head, like, I need you to tell me I'm better than my dad. And it's crazy, man. So again, the idea of this episode, these shows going after a day after the next day, it just makes everything seem more heightened, that we're living in real time. I love
exactly what you said. They're just acting out of emotion. And I gotta say, it's Kendall too, because once he heard that he would be, taking over the family business, or had that little bit of hope that his dad wanted him to do that, all of a sudden he's got that dog in him, right? I feel like if he didn't get that note, like that paper, he would be like, all right, we're going to be moving on, and we're going to build some stuff up just with the sibling.
I agree.
But until then, since then, oof, yeah, no, he's going to burn it all down if it doesn't work out.
Well, speaking of burning it all down, man, you mentioned it earlier with Shiv and just kind of knowing her brothers. She mentioned, when they were kids, oh, Shiv dropped some milk in the car, Dad, just to simply implying that they always lie on her name. Talk to me about Shiv, man. She questions the legitimacy of what Roman and Ken are talking about, because obviously we know earlier in the episode that she got it from the other, there's two sides of the story. The one person's the other in the truth. And, Matsson told the truth that they were the ones that were trying to kill this deal and being very, unprofessional. And Shiv's face, throughout this scene in particular, was just so funny, because, like you said, she knew they were lying through their damn teeth.
She's got that bloodhound nose, right? She's just like, okay, come on, just say it. What you all doing? You're laying down something. Like, look at her in this right here. She's I love it. She is not, if looks could kill, if you could kill someone just by looking at them, she is definitely staring a hole right through both of their heads. 100%. And they can't even stand up to a little bit of scrutiny. Kind of just drives that thing home, where it's got to have been a messy childhood, because they were all striving for the throne. They all just can kind of communicate non-verbally with each other, see through each other very easily. You have two of the boys co-CEOs, and this third party that feels like she should be in the trifecta too, but it's not. It's messy. It's just too messy.
Speaking of messy, man, these kids' emotions is like it's foreign language to them when they have to be emotional. When Rome says, "Can we?" They apologize to her for lying, because she eventually gets the truth out of them, because she knew the truth from the beginning. But they admit that they were lying about throwing the deal under the table, and Rome and Ken make their apologies. And Rome, can we do the huggy thing again?
Right. Then I like how the assistant or whatever just comes in, just kind of interrupts the moment. They really don't got time for any of that.
They don't, man. And through this conversation, she reminds them that this was supposed to be a clean, we sell the company, we move forward with Pierce. What all happened during this moment? And again, Ken brings up lightly that he wants to keep the company while also keeping Pierce, and promises not to screw her over. But man, just putting your theory hat on for a second, do you think the trust of these siblings will inevitably crumble right in front of them? I'm just going to end up going their separate ways.
They all still got each other's knives in their backs. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, all of those wounds are fresh. Like, if I'm thinking about, last season when Kendall drowned her out with that music.
Yeah, during the cruise situation. Yeah.
It's like, bro.
And then she threw him on the bus on national television, saying he's a terrible dad and a drug addict. I mean, they cut deep. They cut deep.
It's very ruthless. Like, if they can all put that away and still be siblings, while the throne kind of sits, quasi empty or whatever, is unsure, then who I think will lose it first, though, is Roman.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with you. I'm a Roman fan, but he can't function without his dad. We've seen that. He tries to put on the front, he tries to put on his big boy pants and fire Jerry and fire everyone that looks at him wrong. And we'll talk about the executive studio producer, but he just can't function. He doesn't know up from down, left to right without someone necessarily giving him the orders, giving him the direction that he should walk in. It's been very hard to find his way. And, that might be due to him being abused as a kid and being from his dad, but also his siblings throwing him in a dog crate, feeding him dog. It's like, that's going to really.
But apparently he liked it. He may have just done it.
It's really weird. Tell you something, Nine. I don't know what is coming of this relationship and what has become of this relationship. It's very toxic. It's very, I'm referring to Tom and Shiv. You mentioned it earlier where she walks out of the room with her brothers because she has an important meeting to go to. As we find out, this is important meeting is basically
scheduling your grief.
10 to 15 minutes to grief, man. These people are just constantly moving, and not taking time for themselves, because when you don't do that, you have moments like what we see with Shiv biting her ex-husband, sleeping with her, well, not ex-husband, still husband, but just the back and forth. Nine. Is it do we blame it on the pregnancy? Do we blame it on the dad being lost, dealing with the new company? And to the time of it all, do you feel bad for Tom? Are you enjoying this back and forth of this toxicity? Talk to me, Nine, about this relationship.
I kind of feel bad for Tom, right? Because I have the impression that like he had no idea what he was in for when like joining the family or being a part of the whole thing. Like, yeah, sure, he liked money or whatever, but Shiv is just someone that just really cannot wear her heart on her sleeve. And her over and signing with Logan that one time. But she, if the circumstances were right, would have done it to Tom 100%.
100%.
100%. Now, I also feel bad for Shiv, though. That's just a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Dad's gone. Brothers are snaking you. Going through a divorce. To my knowledge now that she 20 weeks pregnant with, who knows who. That would be so isolating, and you still have to like have this strong front going. And I need some chewy barnacle ears or whatever, some tough skin, I guess. What's going on with these two? This is the worst relationship.
And it's, we got a bit of insight back in episode 4 where Tom approached her on a staircase and gave us a little bit of a history of when they first met. He was sending her letters. He was so romantic, and she wasn't she was in a bad spot, and he was just the right person she needed. So you can see that there was probably a sense of like normalcy prior to her getting involved in her family business. But once all that happened, it all went to hell. But to answer your question, man, as far as this relationship goes, where is it going? I don't know, man. I think right now she just needs someone to lie to her, be honest with her, to be all the things that you would think someone would run away from. She's just taking it, man. It's just a bad.
I do appreciate that Tom seems to be like, straightening out his back, kind of standing up for himself a bit more to her. Yeah, that seems to like really well for Shiv. And definitely
she likes it.
Yeah, she definitely likes that. And in kind of like a creepy way, though. You know what I mean? Kind of like a creepy, like, almost this is like how my dad would act type of way, right? Like Tom is kind of like willing to take on those character traits that were within Logan. He knows that he's like kind of entered this great game, that he's out for his own back, and that everyone else is now too. So he's stepping up a bit. I feel like everyone is kind of trying to step up a bit, even Greg,
Greg. Love him, man. He's doing big things.
As far as, her dad just passed away a week ago, I was like, man, that's kind of weird to like hook up right there in the office or whatever and do that.
Emotions all over the place, man. It's and you said something too, Nine, as far as just kind of the Logan of it all, and them being raised as kids. I think that this is probably something that they grew up around, as far as how maybe Logan and their relationship was, and the toxicity that they probably saw on a normal basis. So I think it's one of those things that you become somewhat your environment. We have Rome, and this is just one example, Nine, of Rome just running wild. House is on fire, Nine. I'm talking about when we see Roman gearing up to meet with one of the executives of Waystar Studios in LA. I believe her name was Joy Palmer. Just, having a little chit chat, nice little business conversation. Then the conversation turns into ETN situation with them leading into Macon and his presidential coverage, and them really kind of leaning on him to be the next president. As we know, that was one of the big things from season 3 is who's going to be the next president they're going to push forward. And Macon right now is that candidate. Rome cuts the BS 9. And he can tell that she's not really seeing the Logan type of ferocity or the gravitas in the conversation.
Yeah.
She's kind of just like this little, as he says, oh, you just probably look at me as some a-hole kid, doesn't know what I'm doing. I'm not my dad. And she says, no, I believe, doing what someone would do in a situation. No, by no means. I'm sure that you got in this position. Right decisions were made.
That was the line that kind of tipped him. Was like, yeah, I'm sure you did something very important to get into this position. It was like, oh, that's a sneak diss if I ever heard one.
And 9, he proceeds to fire her. No rhyme, no reason, no professionalism behind it. He is just out of control, man. Your thoughts on Roman in this decision?
That's why I really love the pull-up scene. He's on the back of the golf cart, just kind of that shot with him just traveling all the way through there. Kind of see that, like, okay, he's got a little bit of intent on his mind, right? Like, he's not going to be playing no games. Succession has this weird way of conducting their conversations where, really, if you take everything on just that surface level, you'll be like, what the hell is actually happening here?
Right.
Like, what exactly was the conversation about? Roman didn't believe that she respected him as much as she respected his father. That's when he said, away with you. Right. And I feel like little did he know that this chick is kind of like a boss dog, right? You can't just get rid of, can't just burn that bridge. The bridge is a bit too big, right? And it links to other bridges, right?
This would be, in our superhero nerdum fandom, this would be like someone in Disney going to Kevin Feige and firing him on the spot. This would be like if Bob Chapek, before Bob Iger came back, met with Kevin Feige and was like, hey, Kevin, I want you to do this is that. And Kevin's giving him a little pushback. And this would be if Bob Chapek just fired Kevin Feige on the spot. All hell would break loose if that happened. And this is what essentially what Roman's doing right now.
Or, yeah, exactly. Kevin Feige or Filoni or someone like just getting rid of someone like that. Crazy. And you don't know the amount of pull that this person has.
Yes.
And and I imagine that, like, with running that type of business, like, you need that pull. You need as many horses in the stall as possible that people are willing to bet on. And 100%. Cutting off like someone that is that influential for your gut feeling, I was like, come on, Roman.
It's not a good look.
Where's it going to stop?
Brings me to my next question for you, 9, is do you think this will have ramifications on not only just Roman, but just the company in general?
Or it's just going to piss the wrong people off, where Roman is going to be on the chopping block. I think we already seen him lose a little bit of pull for this episode, right? Like, he 100%. Made the wrong decision at the end of the episode to not, stand side by side, right?
On the stage. Yeah, he made it. Yeah. He doubted him.
We can talk about that later.
Me about my man who's having dreams, building houses on stage, having this, high-end production. This thing's ridiculous moment. You're thinking about Ken on cloud 9 at this point, building houses, building this cloud, and the say no policy as Ken is we're watching Roman just fire someone, Ken making all these crazy demands. The power 9 is just getting to these kids' head.
Yeah, I mean, build me a house tomorrow
in 24 less than 24 hours.
Like, what are you talking about? For what? Where the house isn't going to look like the house that people are going to be staying at. Like, no way. What is the point of us doing that?
Build homes and clouds, and it's just like just seeing all these people running around looking at him being like, what are these kids doing? And that's what I just kept saying. This is like what 30 minutes into the episode. I'm like, this is just crazy, man. We're seeing them literally not knowing, they're not grounded right now. They're all just doing things they're just reacting, just doing things that they think their dad might do by firing someone if you look at them wrong. Think that Ken, stepping up and changing things on the fly might keep people on their toes. It's just a mess, man. It is just a mess, my friend.
Straight up tribute band.
Yes. As Logan said, RIP, you are not serious people.
They are really
and
not.
he was speaking facts, man. Get back into our toxic favorite couple, 9. Night fun in LA. 9, we see Tom and Shiv. They run into each other. And by the way, I don't want to skip over that they did have sex in the office room. They're acting weird again, or at least Shiv's acting weird towards him. Like, didn't y'all just hook up, or are you not on? What is going on? What is? You guys are all over the place. But she's throwing bars at him as she's been doing the last few weeks, and we see her talking about, "Oh, Tom, let me pick your girl for the night," and all this stuff. And Tom, like you said earlier, he's not folding. He's like, all right, sure, let's play your game, Shiv. And speaking of playing games, play this biting game of just like literally physically, as they saw last week. Tom flicks her in the ear. She's throwing rocks at his shoes. 9, are they gonna kill each other by the end of this show, man? Like, what in the heck is going on with Shiv?
I think about something like very cute about it, but so psychotic, right?
It's mental gymnastics. They're playing with each other right now.
I can't. I'm not that flexible for it, because in the middle of a party, bite my arm
in front of everyone.
Y'all go together then. Like, you're not walking out of here with anybody else but her if you're in the middle of the party at the bar just biting each other's arms.
Going full Arm and Hammer.
Played that game? Is that something that people do?
Never heard of it, my friend.
It is kind of like sad. Like, that seems to be the only way that they are able to communicate. I remember in that scene, like, Tom saying, like, it seemed like he was being very serious. Then when he said, like, I'm sorry about what happened to us.
You think.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like play these games with her. But I think deep down that Tom definitely wants to be with Shiv, but Shiv is kind of still like, I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Good stuff, man. I mean, you said a lot of good things there. That just reminds me of, number one, you said the way that they're communicating is just like, this is the best way to communicate, is hurting each other. Because throughout the first 3 seasons, it was just Shiv wearing the pants and Tom just saying, yes, ma'am, sure, dear. And it wasn't until he, screwed her over she really realized that he has a voice. He can make his own decisions that doesn't involve her. And I think that just completely caught her off guard. But their level of communication right now is just who can cut each other the hardest. And like you just mentioned, she talks about, you think you screwed me over? This, that, and the other. Oh, you ain't got nothing what I can do. So it's toxic. But let us know in the comments, guys. How do you feel about this toxic relationship? Do you root for Tom? Do you root for Shiv? Are you just done with both of them? Let us know. But Jerry comes to Roman 9 after she finds out about the news of him firing the executive producer, and a decision. And Jerry just pretty much tells him it's a shit show. The decision you made is going to literally cause so much backlash. So we see Rome is kind of like, I don't have to justify why I do what I do. I'm the COO, and I can do what I want. And 9, when he looks at her, and which is one of my favorite scenes of this episode, and looks at her and say, I need you to tell me that I'm better than my father. And Jerry's rebuttal of like, do you want me to say it or do you want me to believe it?
Yeah.
And going back to your comments, 9, the same, almost much different wording, obviously, but the same thing of questioning his power, as the executive producer did earlier about, do you think, I can't conduct this meeting? And Jerry pushes back on him like, do you really want me to give you the answer? And as soon as he heard that, he fires Jerry. 9. This man is out of control.
You've gone way too far. You're out of pocket. You're out of control. And given their history too, you fired Jerry. Shiv's godmother, Jerry. I was like, oh, that's a little bit too deep right there. And all because of what, this weird sense of pride that you want everybody else to get on board with, just to feed your own ego because your dad can't anymore. Yikes. And we definitely feel the effects of all of that at the end of the episode. And it gets a little bit really weird with Roman. But
so I've actually, prior to these last few episodes, I was actually kind of proud of Roman, just because compared to Shiv and Ken, he was the only one that seemed to somewhat want to get their own business started. But then once his big brother kind of got in his head about them running stuff and them running the company, kind of got him off kiltered. And of course, with the loss of his dad, and we know how much his dad and him controlling his life is such a integral thing in his life. So he's definitely been slipping back in the
And
last
he's
few
been a
weeks.
lot more open about
Yeah.
like how the loss of his dad has been affecting him,
Affected him.
or a
Yeah.
bit out loud, right?
Right.
And you kind of notice that like in this episode when he fires the other lady, right?
Yeah.
That's when he's like, "Oh, I don't need any condolences or whatever," and I'm not going to accept your, your sorries or whatever. And when it seems like when he's on that, it's like that demon time. He's got control. It seems like he only knows how to pretend to be his dad.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. And that's all that he actually gets to come across as.
Yeah.
Whereas like, okay, where are your ideas though? Like how
Yep.
come you're not, maneuvering or like pushing an agenda? I really don't know where Roman's character is going this season. And I think that's what kind of disappoints me about it.
No, I hear you, man. I definitely hear you. And it's something too, just going back to your point about the firing aspect of it, just going back to when he was so scared to fire Jerry a couple weeks ago, or in real time a couple of days ago in this show, to now he's just firing people on a drop of a hat. Because like you said, I think that he thinks this is the best thing that his dad would do. Again, he's just trying to, what would Jesus do? What would Logan do? Type of a mantra in his head. And this wouldn't be the move. I'd tell you that. Firing. And also too, in the climate of men being treated differently than men in the workplace, these are two women that he's firing in one episode. So I mean, the optics of it all, it's just like it's gonna crash and burn in Roman's face, man. So
I doubt that Jerry's actually going to be fired.
Yeah.
We that remorse, like as soon as he walked away from that, he was just like, "Ah, fuck, what did I
he
do?"
knew he spoke too
And
soon.
Kendall kind of like it was just like, "Okay, yeah, no, like Jerry's definitely going to be like the last episode of the season, right,
100%,
and be
100%.
around."
Which I mean, to your point now, and just to touch on it, perfect segue to Ken's reaction is he's just like, okay, big little bro, I like what you're doing. He's like, you're just firing on all cylinders. They're gonna fire me next. And I think that that validation he didn't expect. He was kind of just like he was hoping. He went to Kendall and said, yeah, we're gonna probably have to backtrack on that. I'm gonna need you to clean up my mess in aisle 5. But Ken's like, no, little bro, this is exactly what I want. Let's kick out the old
Which was
guard.
kind of weird. What do you think is going to be the most like divisive factor between these two characters?
I think it's going to come down to the Mencken situation, the presidential, which I think is they've been prepping this for so long. But I think that, because we obviously know that was Rome's guy, I think that maybe, Ken at the last minute is going to want to push someone else to be, running for president. Or, I mean, it can come down to something about their dad, man. It can get to that level of just like either Ken says something or does something, which we'll talk about the literally disrespect of him using his father's, edited out video and making it work to his advantage, which was just completely like to the highest level of disrespect. But I don't know, man. I think that this is gonna, because I remember in the trailer there's a scene where we see Ken like almost choking Rome or putting his hands on his face or around his mouth. So it's coming, man. It's that brotherly love will be running short. That tank will be running low, man.
It seems like they're on a balancing act, right? Because now that Kendall's kind of got like a little bit more pull with that deal, Roman wasn't on stage with him doing that, so that balance is a bit shifted, and so it was already a delicate situation already.
Your thoughts on the realest conversation, or as Tom or Shiv calls it, the truth bombs are coming out. She comes to him after, again, they had sex for the second time in this episode. She comes to Tom and she wants a little bit of advice with the Matsson situation, which to me was like, wait a minute, you want advice from the same guy that threw her on the bus last season? I don't know if Tom is just kind of wrapping her. I don't know if Tom's playing her, if I'm being honest with you, Nine. Like, I wonder if he's playing her this whole time. But truth bombs come out, Nine, and I want to get your thoughts, man. The big question is, why did he sell his wife out last season to her father and telling Logan what they were going to do and make that move behind his back? And he just flat out tells her he likes money, Nine, as everyone in this show does. And everyone in the world likes money, right? And sometimes money is the root of all evil, but he is honest with her, Nine. And this honesty led to Shiv appreciating him telling her that. She's, he says, would you throw away the watches, the nice cars, the luxury, and move with me in a trailer park? And Shiv tells him, I would follow you anywhere for love. 9, man.
So Shakespearean, right?
So Shakespearean.
Right, because like it's another one of those conversations is like, okay, what's actually going on under the layer here, right? And when you look at it, what it basically came down to is we're both pretty terrible people, and at the end of the day, don't we do it better together? Right? We're not
Yeah.
going to be, going off and living off a trailer park like Tom suggested. We're just not. We're either going to be fighting for this until the day we die,
Mhm.
and stabbing each other in the back and getting back at each other forever, or we can do it together a little bit. And I feel like they kind of mended something important, or kind of like reached a new understanding in their
Like
relationship.
the level of honesty and just straight up just being truthful with each other in this moment. And again, the money being the root of their happiness. Like you said, man, why can't we just be miserable together? Live
Hmm.
this kind of happy fake life, and while making hand over fist money, man. It's like this shot here, man. It's just summarizes just their relationship right now. It's just like,
And they gotta be both like crazy, some type of like narrow divergencies with both of them living that lifestyle, because how accepting they are of this relationship, the toxicity. It's
yeah,
just like every day, just, I'm not sure if I'm really even wearing my real face, like if
right,
I'm uh being myself ever. I would like this back.
yeah, yep,
Uh but he kind of lays down the terms that it's going to be different. Like, I'm
hmm
not going to be,
not gonna
your
bend
puppy
over.
dog.
Yep,
I'm
yep,
not going to accept being compartmentalized
yep.
into whatever box that you want to put me in.
hmm
Right. Um, and honestly, like, yeah, you probably should have had that conversation before you got married,
Before you
but
got married, yeah,
yeah,
100%,
but
100%,
yeah, it
yeah.
does seem like it's like they mended something new there. Like, they never had that type of
Turning a new
respect for each
page.
other.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Now, yeah, to that point, to the conversation they had again, going back to his truth bomb, that it all boiled down to not only money, but she didn't allow him to be in the room in the conversations, especially when she was going to be potentially the CEO, when Logan kind of granted her that access for a couple episodes in season 2. But yeah, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how they maneuver in these next few episodes. Again, the whole the baby of it all, like, will she inevitably tell him? Because there has yet to been a conversation between these two about the baby. So again, it's just like, what is holding her back from telling him that she is pregnant? Is it because is it
Mhm.
not Tom's? There's just so much question marks about this whole baby situation that I don't know if it's going to implode in his face. He
Mhm.
accepts her in, and then she drops this on his lap. It's gonna be wild, man. It's gonna be wild. We kind of get a couple brief scenes of seeing Greg making those edits that we'll talk about here in this very interesting moment of glory from Ken. We have a moment with Shiv on the phone with Manson while Tom is in the room, pushing the brothers to not push through with this Living Plus, which is just, again, we now see Tom and Shiv now are on the same page. It's just like my mind is being blown right now. Some things not going together. Ken is on stage now, 9, and this whole plan of having house in the clouds is just falling apart. And we're seeing Shiv talking to Rome, being like, we need to control Ken, because every time Ken does, he got that look in his eyes. He got that
Mhm. You got that
that
glint,
that
yeah.
that look, man. And this is where the conversation and the idea comes into Ken's forefront, or in his front door. We see Roman go into his brother's dressing room and just drops a bomb on him. And that's essentially not having faith in his brother. He
Mhm.
questions if Ken will crack under pressure. And I'll be honest with you, 9, Ken is my boy, but I will admit, when the pressure's on, he never delivers until
Mhm.
this episode 9. We
Mhm.
see him, and not just Roman doubting him and Shiv doubting him, but then Carl out of
Carl
nowhere.
gets a
Carl went
spine.
in on my man Ken. And I ain't gonna lie,
Big
nah,
dog.
I had a good laugh out of that because we've seen Carl, Frank, Jerry, Hugo, all of them just get pushed over by not only Logan, reasonably so, but now he's like, listen, I've been pushed. Carl goes himself, I've been pushed over by your dad for so many years. You know, I just kind of took it. But the last thing I'm gonna do is have these little brat kids tell me what to do.
Well,
Nah,
I like
talk to
that
me.
he said that that's because we went through the trenches together. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Saw your dad become a general.
Mm-hmm.
You, my friend, are not a general. And yeah, he kind of big dogged him because with Shiv, Roman, everyone just kind of watching Kendall going to do his thing. They know, his past, his history.
Right. Right.
Uh, I wouldn't pick Kendall to be on stage for this exact moment, right? What's he gonna do? L to the OG? What?
I thought for a second, I thought he was gonna bust out the rhymes, man.
Or something. Yeah, he's got the jacket on, ready to go to the moon and
Flying to the
everything.
moon, man. Yeah.
Moments where you gotta learn somehow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
start from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Where I do respect what you're saying about Kendall this season because again, yeah, when you were saying that he's like maybe the least emotional
Affected.
person, the
Mm-hmm.
least emotionally
Yeah.
affected, making a bit more rational decisions. Yeah, he seems to be the most focused on getting something done,
Yeah.
and that's where he's starting to get his time to shine.
Right. I agree, man. I could have said it better myself, man. I
But I
love this
was
scene for so many different perspectives. Number one, never seeing Carl come at anyone like this on the entire show caught me off guard, and I loved every second of it, even if it was for my favorite character. But the thing that I loved even more is, and when he says, if you screw me over, I'm gonna snitch. I'm gonna put all your dirty laundry
old
out there.
squeal.
Good luck, buddy. But the thing I love, Nine, as we get into showtime, and if Ken's gonna step up and crack under pressure, the thing I love is the response from Ken in this moment, Nine, because if this was Ken season 1, if this was Ken season 2, especially after his dad just completely destroyed him and covered, Ken would have folded under pressure 100%. As he was kind of, and this is why I love, this is easily my favorite scene of the entire episode. Nine, some great moments in this episode, but this was my favorite. He's on stage, Nine, and big shoes, big shoes, big shoes. I don't know how many times he said it. He was just lost in
I was
translation. He
like,
didn't know.
oh
Here it
no,
is.
I don't
Here it
like
is.
it.
And this is the brilliance of the show, Nine. As the audience, we thinking, here it is again. We're going to see Ken,
Crash and burn.
embarrassing himself in front of everyone. But they play us and they give us something I did not expect coming. Not only does Ken, start to say, ramble off some crazy thing, but then all of a sudden, Nine, he transitions to having Logan on screen, which was just so uncomfortable for me, as well as their the banter, by the way, now between Shiv and Rome saying that his sister was getting off on this, and then Greg looking at Tom and telling him that you don't have to worry about your speech, all you have to do is just pick up the blood. Nine, this scene, bro, is just so funny. But then my boy does redeem himself. Nine, I want to get your thoughts on Ken actually getting back on track, selling the product. Nine, talk to me about this scene where you're on the edge of your seat, where you just covering your eyes because it was just going to be a train wreck.
I cringe when Roman said if I cringe any harder, I might become a fossil. I felt that.
Really great lines.
But yeah, what's up with this? Coachella Tupac hologram Logan Roy shit that he's trying to put on,
bro?
Because yeah, it almost felt like a move that only Kendall would make, and it did feel kind of spiteful to everybody, right? And he saw that underline and he's going to run with it. My dad is on my side. I will use his likeness. I'll use his image. I'm going to use the situation I have in front of me to get what I want done. Makes this a really special moment within the show.
Yeah, this scene, Ken, on seeing him on stage now, and seeing Ken just follow through I was so uncomfortable watching it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I was proud of my boy, man. He reeled it in. He went off the rails with having his dead dad on screen in less than 2 days of him passing away. But he was able to reel it in, Nine, and we see that the buzz is going good. But 9, we can't forget about this nuclear bomb by the name of Lukas Matsson. He's on Twitter, man. Twitter fingers, and he puts out a very inappropriate joke on Twitter. And again, I got to give props where props are due. I'd give this man his roses. If this was Ken 2 seasons ago, he would have again folded, but instead he takes questions from the audience. And one of the first questions from the audience is, what do you have to say about the remarks that the potentially new owner of this company had to say? And, you know, he pulls out his phone, 9. He looks at the remarks, and his first comment is, well, I won't like the tweet. I won't favorite the tweet, which is he apologizes on his behalf, and he says he's European, and he pulls it off, 9. Again, just talk to me about Ken and his resilience on stage, man.
You know, I really don't think it was that earned. I think that Matsson did something crazy, and Kendall just putting it like, okay, I'm going to put this aside. Like, it's not really, he didn't even have to say much to spell all of the criticism or the rumors or whatever that Matsson was trying to build up. Like, he made the wrong move there. And all Kendall had to do was boister himself up and, you know, just move past it.
Yeah.
And he did that very slickly, did that very well. But I don't think it was that much of like a very big win for Kendall's, like, he didn't dunk on him, you know what I'm saying? Like, Kendall, like, he could have like dunked on him, but instead what he did was just kind of like let it slide, like, you know, focused it back in.
Yeah, I hear you, man. But maybe call me a Ken stan, but I thought it was a huge moment for him, bro. I thought it was so, because I just think about it again, Ken, and every time he is put on stage or put it on to say something on the company's behalf, he just always just doesn't. He retreats back to just the old sad puppy Ken and can't think for himself. The fact that he was able to kind of put a spin on it and continue to go on with his speech. And as we end the episode, there's good movement in the stocks. Ken's speech worked. Matsson ends up deleting the tweet, so it's calling Ken special. You know, the king, you know, lives. And we see Roman. Oh, good job, brother. He walks out, head down. He made a bad choice. He didn't go with the right horse. And Shiv, same thing. Neither one of them flew to the moon with their brother. Which again, we're seeing Ken right now is the one ascending to the sun while everyone else is kind of leaning back and playing in their own sandbox with firing with Roman. Now Shiv's trying to get back in the relationship with Tom. They're kind of losing their sight on the key prize, but Ken's the only one right now that seems to be really focused on being the man.
So on your point about it being a big Kendall moment, my mind, right? The big Kendall moment is end of season 2. Right.
Oh, when he threw his dad under the bus.
Right.
That's one of my favorite.
That's like that big. Yeah.
I got you.
That is a big one. This right here felt like more of a well executed, you know, just maneuver rather than like that big like dunk moment. I think we are going to get a really big dunk moment for Kendall later on in the season, like that kind of rivals as big as you know, end of season 2.
Hey, I'm here for it, because I'm not even speaking hyperbole. That scene, and which is why season 2 will be ever like goated for me. Of course, this season's been great, and we'll see how it ends. But that scene, man, I remember watching it like it was yesterday. I was literally shocked. And what I love, even it was the cherry on top for me, 9, in that scene is when we cut to Logan, and he has like a little smile on his face, like maybe my son is a killer. Yeah, I love that scene so much, man. But we end the episode with see Tom and Shiv in the car discussing their options and how they're gonna move, you know, discreetly as this couple. We see Ken on a beach, which just reminded me so much. We see him on a beach. He's on literally cloud 9. But the last time we saw him near water at all is when we saw him at his lowest point in season 3, when I thought that they killed Ken when he was in the pool, and he was like drinking and he like passed out. I'm like, dude, did they kill Ken? Because he's the water, he's gonna drown. But last time we saw him, he was at an absolute low near water, and now we see him at an all-time high. So I thought that was just a great little tie-in from last season to this season, just seeing that growth in the character there. But we end, my friend, on this shot, and you talk about just a character that we've been kind of referring to all episode, and like, where is he headed? Where is he going? What is he doing? About this shot here now with Rome in the car, replaying a moment from that same promo of his dad, Logan, talking about his son is such an embarrassment and just making fun of him. He's listening to it over and over and over again.
And is that edited too? Like, it's kind of sounded like it was like edited to, just like how Greg wanted Mr. Snip Snip to say some of the words. Like, did Roman have that edited for
Together?
Logan to say that? Because what I'm thinking is we already know that Roman is crazy. And I'm trying to figure out what drives Roman at this point.
Mm.
And it doesn't feel like it's the same thing that drives Kendall.
Right.
Although we saw in the last episode him confronting Madison on that mountain that, you know, you're not going to take this thing that our dad built.
Dad's legacy.
Right. But it seems that now he's kind of upset about how he's letting Kendall take the reins. Right?
That's how I took it. Yeah, I mean, I think he, again, even in death, he still wants to impress his dad, and I think he didn't. You know, he was on the wrong side of history. He could have been on that stage with his brother and embraced all that good juju, but instead he went against his maybe instinct to be up there, and he's a screw up. You know, that's why the whole video is like you're essentially a screw up, and I think he's just like hearing it over and over and over again, especially from hearing it from his dad. Is something that he's probably so used to throughout his life.
Now, I think that when we saw in this episode him kind of pantomiming his dad through his firing of Joy and Jerry.
Yeah.
But he's kind of realizing that he needs to be like his dad, like how Kendall was, like actually getting up on stage, doing the things, making those maneuvers. And he's just kind of punishing himself right now over that fact.
100%. It's screwed up. It's messed up. It's mind games. It is. It really is. You know, man. Just as we wrap it up, I've been seeing a couple comments, man, and some people that think that Roman, you know, there's this. I don't want to say it's like a theory, but there's been a couple times in this season that Roman has been grabbing prescription drugs. And I don't know what they are exactly, but I saw a clip somewhere online where they showed him taking Adderall randomly. When Carrie dropped her bag during the wake, he took her pills, and then the next episode, you see him taking pills again. I don't know. I don't know what you think about this, but are we slowly but surely seeing him go into this suicidal state of mind?
That's tough. That's tough. Just because that would be an interesting character development for this part of the season, maybe. Just because Roman is kind of like more of a mentalist type of addictive fuck up, right? Where Kendall is like has that, you know, actual drug addiction problem. I don't think we've actually explored any of that type of thing. I don't think I've really noticed Roman except for this season. I remember especially when Kelly dropped her bag and he picked up the pills and was kind of like, oh shit. But it would just be kind of strange for him to adapt that type of quality along with this punishing that he's doing to himself right here, which seems like way more in line with the thoughts that Roman would have to be some type of conclusion with Roman and Jerry moving forward. If it does turn out to be a tragic situation with Roman, I think Jerry would be one of the people that actually snaps him out of it, right?
I mean, that's the most like vulnerable person we see him besides, you know, Shiv and Ken. That's the most vulnerable person we see him been around. So yeah, man, I mean, it's very interesting. Again, I've always been a fan of the portrayal of Roman because he's just such a wild card and he always seems to be on the ball and nothing never, you know, gets him off kilter. But this season has really shown us, again, with the death of his father in particular, that he is just as screwed up as all these other characters, man, and doesn't have his head straight at all. And I think out of all the kids, Connor included, he is taking the death of his father the hardest because at least Shiv has Tom, you know, even though they're toxic as hell, she has someone to kind of at least get her mind off of it. Ken right now is on his high horse and just taking all this power to his head. You know, Connor's running for president, just got married.
Right.
Roman, who does he have, and what does he have to necessarily lean on? And it's nothing but his regrets and his thoughts and his dad in his head telling him he's a screw up. So
You're right.
we'll see, man. We will see. But Nan, as we wrap it up, my friend, I really appreciate you joining me tonight. And we're going to stay on for maybe another 10 to 15 minutes to kind of get everyone's thoughts. But I want to get your final thoughts on this episode. Standout moments, favorite performance, favorite scene, things that maybe didn't work for you. And then if you were to, give it a score, what would you give it, man? So final thoughts.
I would say standout moments were definitely between Shiv and Tom. I kind of am obsessed with whatever's going on in that situation. Shiv has a lot more control than I think anybody actually knows right now.
Yeah.
So whatever happens next between those two is going to be pretty entertaining. Especially knowing next week we got Matsson joining back into the mix. Looks like he may be like
literally crashing a party,
right? And he's just kind of like in his Assassin's Creed hoodie or whatever, like his ponchos or whatever that he'd be swagging out on. Their relationship is just kind of like fascinating, worrying, but very enchanting to see develop. Now, I would say that, but whenever Kendall takes that dip in that water, though, I feel like that's just like a clue that something's about to happen, right? Kendall's about to throw down the gauntlet on some type of thing.
I think you might be onto something, man. And then if you were to give it out of 5, out of 10, a letter grade,
my rating, I wouldn't say it's my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah.
There's so much. It's one of those episodes that I'm going to be like, oh man, did I watch this episode? Like, there's so much that happened. Such a long episode. It's going to be kind of like a sleeper hit for me. How about I just rank it out of the 6? I would say like it's probably in like the top 4. Okay. Or number 4 out of the 6.
Out of 6 so far,
but still good, still really good.
Still,
8 out of 10, 7.5, 8 out of 10.
Gotcha. Well said, man. I mean, I totally agree with you on the most intriguing, entertaining aspect, the most, kind of head scratching WTF moments were the scenes between Shiv and Tom. I definitely agree with you there. But as far as my favorite scene, favorite character, MVP of the episode, as I alluded to at the very beginning, my boy Ken. The king is here. The champ is here. I'm serious, but I really enjoyed the portrayal from Jeremy Strong tonight, as I have this entire season. But I really love that he was able to step up. And we'll see what comes with this. Is he going to be on a high, continue to making good decisions, or is he going to crash and burn? We talked about the Roman situation tonight. And I'm really intrigued, again, based on what you said on the trailer last week, and just thinking of whenever we have these characters just in a room is one of the most dynamic episodes. I go back to episode 4 in the wake of Logan. That was some of the most compelling TV, and they were just in rooms talking throughout the entire episode.
And
so whenever
we're going to get that next week. And it's going to be just a lot more dynamics added into it.
I'm here for it. I am here for it, man. So
they have to come back next week.
Yeah, man. So this is the end of our breakdown portion. Again, for those that are watching the breakdown, we appreciate you. Do me a favor, like, share, but more importantly, I want to know your thoughts on this episode, favorite moments, your score of the episode, as well as what do you all hope to see in the weeks ahead. So definitely do us a favor and let us know. But more importantly, I got my man 9, who you guys can see on the screen. Such a great commentator tonight. So many great takes. Had a great time with him. So do me a favor, y'all, those watching the breakdown. His link is in the description of this very video. Click on it, subscribe, watch all this video 50 times. You won't be disappointed. So on that being said, we'll catch you guys in the next video.